Welcome to I Change the Narrative, a podcast for and about Black men, inspiring, supporting, and empowering Black men and Black boys. This episode of I Change the Narrative is sponsored by So Organic, So Suave, also known as Sauce. Sauce is a luxury hair care and skincare refuge for those with thick hair and melanin rich skin, from healthy beard growth to top of head hairstyling to illuminating skincare regimen. Sauce Essentials will naturally enhance your outer appearance to strengthen your inner confidence. Sauce invites you to accept the authenticity and real self care and embrace your best. You can find Sauce's award winning grooming essentials online at sossd.co. Again, that's sossd.co. You can also follow Sauce on Instagram for the latest in product news and updates at sossd.co. Elevate your grooming with Sauce today. For the month of November, we are doing it a little bit different as it is a sauce takeover. And what that means is that we have come together and co-produced the show. And not only that, Sauce has chosen 4 pillars that are near and dear to their hearts and brand. So I say to Sauce team, thank you. Our topic for today is living unapologetically. Before we start the conversation, I want our guests to tell us about yourself and the work that you're involved in that lends itself to the topic or the lived experience. Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to start with Jeremiah from Sauce.
Wow, what a response there. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. So can you ask the question again? I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted you all to introduce yourselves, tell us
Okay.
about yourself and what you do that
Ab-
lends itself to the topic.
Absolutely. My name is Jeremiah Regis. I'm co-founder of Sauce, So Organic, So Suave. Um, I am Houston. I live in Houston, but I reside in New York. Um, how I relate to this topic is my brand, our brand, to say that is it is for the melanin rich skin and building confidence within each other. We believe in affirmations. I am is something that we put in all of our products and being intentional and being impact over everything. So that is why I believe that this aligns very well with us.
Awesome. Thank you. Next, Young King, Jeremiah.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Jeremiah DeAndre Williams. I'm a junior at Hampton University, journalism major. I'm the captain of the men's tennis team at Hampton University. And I'm also part of the play-by-play team for the basketball team. I do like color commentary, so thank you for having me.
No problem. Kyle.
How you all doing today? My name is Kyle Sterling. I reside in the DMV, Washington, D.C. Originally from Chicago, South Side. And how do I relate? I'm an entrepreneur in real estate. I'm a realtor, real estate investor. And I think it correlates a lot because as an entrepreneur, you have to bring your authentic self every day to your business.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm excited.
Thank you. Welcome. Brenton.
Morning, everybody, at least on my side of the world. Good morning. My name is Brenton Owens. I reside in Long Beach, California. I'm in the electrical engineering and contracting field career path. I also have a business that I am a co-founder of called the Jade Company, and we're currently working on opening an open smoke cannabis lounge in the Los Angeles area. I feel like the essence of my being correlates to the topic at hand, and that kind of just trickulates and everything else that I have going on in life. So it's a pleasure to share this space with you all, and I look forward to what's to come today.
Thank you. Malik. No. All right. We're going to get started with the conversation while our guest Malik gets his sound together. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. We are living in a time where we see Black men of all ages embodying themselves, self-realizing who they are and who they're meant to be, and defying repeated and tired narratives. This living unapologetically was inspired by a sense of being fed up and trying to assimilate into a culture that does not welcome Black men or Black people, but for this purpose today, Black men. It seems that Black men are more and more living proud, unafraid, which involves decisions that are representative of who they are from the inside out, and thus living without apologies. Let's get started, gentlemen. What does it mean to live unapologetically as Black men? What does it mean to live unapologetically as Black men? Anyone can go for it.
Okay, I tap in. I think changing the narrative for Black men, like being unapologetically happy, being unapologetically successful, being unapologetically spiritual. I think it's so many times we try to put on this persona of being like tough or being masculine and all these other things, being unapologetically groomed. And so getting a pedicure, getting a manicure, I think all of those things embody the idea of being your authentic, unapologetic self and not feeling like it takes away from your masculinity and your ability to be a protector and a provider. It's still having those other aspects of you as well and being unapologetically supportive of other people. I think those characteristics are something that we're seeing now um, as we embrace our inner peace and inner hope and try to exude that to other people.
Okay. Thank you.
I also think living unapologetically means fully accepting self. Once you come to terms with who you are as a person, it's easier to navigate the world. So the better you understand who you are, um, you subsequently are unapologetically living because you're living in your, like brother Kyle said, you're living in your true self. You're living authentically, but you have to understand self in order to do so. So I think what I've noticed is our generation now. So it seems to me we're opening up to fully accepting who we are as Black men, and then being able to handle the world around us from that point out, because we're sick and tired of other people's narrative being pushed on us. So you have to block that out, understand who you are, and then so forth. The world will be so within, so without is the term. So
I love that. I love that. I think Kyle as well as Brenton said something very key. But you said a key word though. The word was assimilating. I believe that living unapologetically is not go is going against the grain or going against going through what you believe to be your truth, right? Regardless of whatever it is, you believe whatever you believe is living unapologetically, right? Regardless of what it is. And I believe it's a sense of confidence, right? Brenton said knowing who you are, right? Is whatever that is, that's living unapologetically. Just living in your truth.
Can you guys hear me now?
yeah.
Yes,
Sorry about that. Sorry to interrupt.
no problem. Jeremiah, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was saying, I think living unapologetically means like going against doing what you have to do in life, not what the world wants you to do. I think oftentimes the world puts a narrative on Black men and young males like these are the two things you have to do. But I think now we're realizing that we're more than athletes, we're more than rappers. We can get into other fields and be successful. So I think this generation is, changing the narrative in regards to being who they really want to be instead of the world telling you have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Are y'all
Absolutely.
cool with me staying off of mute so I can chime in with y'all when y'all?
Yes, no
Okay.
problem.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Well, let's
I love what he
loosen up a
said.
little bit, guys.
Yeah, I love what you
Yes.
said. Spot on.
I would
Yes,
love
sir.
to jump in finally.
Malik, what did you say? I'm sorry.
I would love to jump in finally if y'all could hear me. I do apologize
Go
about that.
ahead. Tell us about yourself and then jump in.
Yeah, I had to jump on my phone. My name is Malik Stokes. I'm from Philadelphia, PA. Currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a singer-songwriter. I was a former collegiate athlete, and just to kind of chime in on the conversation at hand, just kind of what it means to live unapologetically. I really can just draw from, personal experience, obviously, when I kind of felt like I finally started to live unapologetically, as myself. I think it comes with just a lot of characteristics, kind of like a lot of internal diving into yourself, and being vulnerable enough to um, learn yourself. I think we, as especially Black men, we have to wear these, quote unquote masks of, our unapologetically genuine self, in fear of, the things from the outside that, kind of uh, shape that. So living unapologetically for me was just getting to a place where I felt so comfortable and vulnerable with myself that I could be my authentic self, and understand that the right people always kind of attach themselves to that. And then understanding that there's a certain light in yourself that comes with that, that, when you can get to that point, you're able to kind of share, what an unapologetic life looks like with other people.
Right.
So.
If I can add one more thing, I think that I think COVID honestly helped Black men find themselves. Being in the same environment for months, you were able to realize who you really are, what you want to be, and you start to create a plan. Once you create the plan, you can, once the world opened up, you can start to go out and do what you're called to do. So I think COVID really kind of helped Black men find themselves and who they really are in life, in all aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah, that was you spoke something to me, and I think I resonate with that point is because for me, I've had like a identity crisis for a long time, meaning that for me, I changed so quickly throughout my life that I didn't know who I identified as. I went from a street individual to a collegiate a student, to a player to a married man. Like there was no in between where then I just didn't understand fully who this person was. And then when I got into corporate America, then I started to assimilate to what they wanted me to be, right? They tell me I have to cut my beard. They told me I need to, I'm in sales, so I have to look the part, So it was a lot of things that there was so many, it was moving so fast that I didn't get to identify. I didn't know at this point, well, who am I? Like, am I who you say I am, or is it am I who I say I am? Right. So when you say COVID, I really resonate with that because it gave us the time to really slow down, stop, and really get the moment to think and really strategize and build, or even rebrand who you actually believe to be, or just learning yourself. Right. So man, living unapologetically is that, right? Finding out who you are and walking in those steps, man. So Jeremiah, you said that COVID definitely had a big part to do with that.
Yeah.
And like you said, the restrictions, like since you're in business, you have to, have the certain look.
Identity putting on you.
Right. I know at Hampton, they make you, I remember my freshman year, business majors, males, if they had dreads, they made them cut. And I was kind of like surprised. I was surprised because like you can be a business owner and still have dreads. The look doesn't matter. Like we see on Instagram, we see guys that's owning multiple businesses with multiple tattoos. Like there's this guy, I don't know if you guys heard of him, Derek Grace. He has face tattoos, and people think he's a thug, but he has an insurance company. He's making like $500,000 a month. So
Ooh.
there's no restriction. There's no look that you have to have. Like
Yes,
Right.
that's living unapologetically as well. Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys are touching on the identity portion too, like you're saying, it's almost like it's molded identities through different phases of your life that you've experienced, and you finally get a chance through COVID, not the plus side of it, to be able to actually find self and be your authentic self, like we've been saying in rotation. So I'm reading this book called Inner Engineering, and I actually read something yesterday. It kind of ties exactly into what we're saying. It's pretty crazy. It's like a reference. I'll just read it if you guys don't mind.
Don't mind.
It says, if the seed constantly tries to save itself, a new life is impossible. The seed goes through the tremendous struggle of losing what it believes to be its identity losing its safety and integrity and becoming vulnerable in order to grow into a many branched leafy tree abundant in fruit and flower. So it's basically how this exactly how we're tying in. It's like you have to essentially, like Malik was saying too, be very vulnerable, be able to lose the identity of who you believe you are in order to dig deep and let yourself grow and sprout into your greatest self. So it's crazy how that just I literally read this like 6 hours ago last night. So way past that now.
But I think that one thing that just it could be COVID, it could be all these different things. But I was talking to some one of my line brothers yesterday, and we were talking about wanting to have wisdom. But to have wisdom, you have to have experience. You can't be wise unless you have experiences. So I think that I feel like we're at a point. Many of us are like maybe 6 years out of college, 8 years out of college, etc., going into 30s or 30. So you've been through your 20s, you went through your teenage years, you've done corporate, you've tasted and saw different aspects of life, which gained wisdom, which allow you to be able to determine these are things I like and these are things I don't like. I don't like corporate. I don't like assimilating. I don't like being confined. But until you felt those emotions, until you been a part and dwelled into those experiences, it's hard for you to determine who you are, because I don't think we don't know what we know if we don't know it. If you never experienced something, you don't know if you don't like it. And so I think that this life experiences itself allow you to determine, okay, this is what I am, this is what makes me happy, because you don't know that you're not happy until you experience happiness. And so I think that life experiences in general, whether it's COVID, whether it's corporate, whether it's undergrad, whatever it is, that allows you to continue to evolve into the person that you are. And then you say, okay, this is what I do. Like, I'm my happiest right now. Because I thought in high school I was happy. I thought in corporate when I was getting those checks, I was happy. So like, you don't know what you know. You don't know what you don't know until you figure it out. And so
Yeah, and I think
real quick. You know what's so crazy, Kyle? The reason why I thought about you is because you are living unapologetically. I remember a period in time where you hated your job.
Yeah.
You hate I'm making all this money, but I hate my job. You know what? I'm just gonna do what I want to do. And you're doing that. You're finally living in your purpose. So that's your first person I thought about when we was thinking about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally
So
agree.
essentially, he sacrificed unapologetically, like he took a leap out to do what he wanted, to his purpose. Respect.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So Jeremiah sort of touched upon this, but I want to get down to this I am. We're always saying these I am affirmations. How does the I am, how is it configured into living unapologetically, if that makes sense? How is I am configured into living unapologetically?
I think it speaks life into self first and foremost. So the more life you speak into yourself, the easier it is to be your authentic self, to live unapologetically. When it can go many ways, but
Right.
I'll start it there. It's all about speaking life. It's changing the energy, the vibration that you have. Speaking I am this, I am that, I am that, as opposed to I am not. It's all this. It's the verbiage.
So in other words, it has
I
the
think,
power to make or break you, right?
unfortunately,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, I might be lagging a little bit, but I was saying, I think, unfortunately, and I'm sure a lot of us probably on this call can attest to it, is we those affirmations weren't very what's the word I'm looking for? They didn't happen very often growing up. And not for lack of anybody, in some cases yes, but not for lack of maybe not being loved or things like that. But it's something in our community that isn't so common, and so there's a fear behind. There's like a inadvertent fear behind speaking life into yourself, because it doesn't seem normal. And that's one thing that I learned, growing up, is that I had, I love my mom and dad. I have good parents. They aren't perfect by any stretch of imagination, but we spend a lot of our time surrounding ourselves in trauma, and so it becomes a norm. And doing things like I am is so not normal to us that it feels awkward if there's a fear behind it. So it all dives back into that point of vulnerability, to be able to speak life into yourself. It could feel very uncomfortable at first when you start doing it. But then when you start to realize the belief behind what you're calling yourself, what you're deeming yourself to be, or what you're telling yourself that you can do, you realize that you're making up for a lot of time that you didn't learn that, and it takes practice. Like I am takes practice, because sometimes it's that thing in life where you like fake it till you make it. It kind of starts off as a fake till you make it at first. You're like, I am somebody, I am strong, I am smart. And at first you're like, am I really?
Mhm.
And then the more you say it to yourself, like Brent said, you start to realize and believe it. But then you start to realize that you can put the action behind it,
Right.
that you are strong enough, you are smart enough to figure something out, that you're smart enough to start your own business. You're strong enough to get through some of those tough times. And then I am becomes a way of life. So it's really an evolution. And it really starts, it starts from sometimes nowhere, and develops into something.
Right.
So
Right.
Wow,
Yes.
you said something, and so for me, my takeaway from this, from what Brett and Nick said, is we have the power of life and death in our words, right? The choice is ours. Are we going to consistently say I am something positive or I am not, which is immediately just change it to something negative. But if you say I'm not and then putting a negative behind that, then we're now putting more life in place. So understand that whenever we have to be intentional with the verbiage that we're attaching ourselves to, right? I practice affirmations daily, right? I typically play a certain affirmation when I'm in the shower, and I repeat that, right before I go to bed, right? So now it's the last thing I hear, and then I have sticky notes um, around my workspace, just reminding me, hey, I am this, or I'm going to achieve this, or whatever. We're affirming, we're stating that this is what we believe and this is what's going to happen. Right? We understand that practice makes perfect. So it's not the first time you say I am a billionaire that you're gonna just be a billionaire. That's not how that works. It's consistency around it. It's the practice of that. Then you will start going to make the steps to be that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the foundation of manifestation. Essentially, is the first is thought, and then is verbal. What I mean, you have to bring it into the physical realm through voice, like the first words, and I say so. You go from thought to voice to action, and then of course to the final stage of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am is again it's foundational to the manifestation of things. It starts with that. So you shift your and it's made again coming out. You shift what you call like an internal vibrational fork, if you will, and it tunes. So when you speak life into yourself, you set a certain tune in yourself that aligns you with the path that you're seeking. So, like for instance, with me, when I started college, I kept telling myself, "I am going to be this. I am going to be this. I'm going to be a project manager by this date." And lo and behold, the more I mean, it's you repeating yourself over and over and over. It's called a mantra. So the more you tell these uplifting, life speaking mantras over yourself, you start to gravitate towards where you're elevating yourself vibrationally. Um, so yeah, it starts. I'm trying to cut myself off in some points, but
No, it's
I am
okay.
is the basis of manifestation, and it travels on. The more you turn it into from just saying it like Jeremiah was saying once every so often, I am this and that, opposed to 30 sometimes in the morning, I am this, I am that, and it's just repeating yourself over and over and over. You set yourself up internally again, as within, so without. So again, when you tune yourself in and you repeat these things over and over to self, you begin to live those things because you become like even Malik was saying, it's a quote unquote fake it till you make it. But I'll leave it there. Yeah.
I agree with what everybody was saying. Like essentially, right, like when you say these things, you start to move different in life. I don't know if like you guys realize that when you say these certain things, your walk is different. Your smile, your ideas, everything around you is just better. Like I know for me, like when it's a tough workout, I say these three things: I can, I will, I must. And those three things help me mentally get over the hump in a workout or just running. These little things, we think these things are little, but in reality, our mind is taking over, and then we start to see it and do things that we never thought we could do based off our affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
And then also affirmations are not always words, it's pictures as well. I remember during COVID, I put pictures on the walls. So what house I want, these trophies I want. That's an affirmation. You gotta see it. You see it before it happens so that it comes to pass. So your actions match up with what you're trying to do.
Someone
I
once
like
said something. You can't hit a target you can't see. So to your point, you got to see it to get it right. We talk
Right.
about all types of goals we may have. We got to see that, and then we're gonna hit that target. So actually, absolutely agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My wife drive around looking at $1 million homes because we, like you're saying, we got to see it. We envision ourselves in it. We do that maybe once a month type of thing. There's this really, really nice area in Long Beach called Signal Hill at the top of the hill. So we go up there and we'll walk and we'll say our affirmations and look at the different homes and things of that nature. And it's like you're saying, you got to see where you want to be, and then you set your path. So I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I can relate that to something, when I was younger, when I first started playing football. And it probably sounds crazy, but my dad was like the Joe Jackson of parents when it came to football. But he used to, it was something that carried through life. He would make us write down our season goals before the season. How many touchdowns you want to score? How many yards do you want to run for? How many carries or how many tackles do you want to get? Whatever it was, whatever the position we were playing. And I hated it when I was younger. I was like, let me just go out there and just, play. Like, why we got to do all that? But it was a good practice. It's something that I continue to do to this day. Just like Jeremiah said, you know, see it, write your
Yeah.
goals down, put them on the fridge, put them on the wall. It sounds cliche, but the more you see something, the more you fix your mind around what it takes to get to that. And
Yeah.
it's something that resonates even as a child in
Yeah.
every aspect of life.
I also want to say, outside of this manifestation, I think I am regrounds me. Am I living like that person and purpose that I tell myself that I am? Am I being the spiritual being? Am I being a giver? Am I being a nurturer? Am I being a provider to my family? And so outside of the future, it kind of keeps me aligned in the present.
Yeah.
It's a reminder.
It's a reminder, it's a reality check. It's a value standard.
Mm.
And I think that and it can be hard. Like when you first start trying to create this identity for yourself, society has already created identity for us that you have to um, untangle or take down.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're trying to kind of create this standard of who you are and create this identity, uphold the standards of who you tell yourself you are, but then create a bigger vision for yourself. But I think that the I am outside the manifestation is to also kind of like look yourself in the mirror. Are you being the person that you say you are? And it creates a self reflection, which I appreciate as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Drawing from your own experiences, how does one get there? Get the mindset, gain the mindset, not get the mindset, but gain the mindset of being unapologetically Black as a Black man. So from your how get help some young men or some even older Black men or middle age, help them to get there. What does it take?
Ooh, I like that question. That's a really good question. Um, something that somebody once told me was to write things down, right? And I'm talking about write. For one, let's take a step back. First, learn yourself. right? We talked about this in the last podcast. Learn who you are, and then who you strive to be, right? Once you understand what that is, start to write that down. Like, hey, I am, like, we're gonna go back to I am, right? We're talking about building this, like, almost navigating who you want to be on paper, all right? And live by that, right? And live by your truth. But what you're writing has to be your truth, right? So understanding who you are, identify that, and who you strive to be, because whoever you used to be does not matter. It's about where you're going. It's not where you came from, right? So we talk about for the future, right? So who you strive to be, what does that person look like? Who do you admire? What attributes does that person hold? And strive to be that person. And then from there, you'll find out your truth, and then you will live by your truth, and that is living unapologetically. So that's my opinion on somebody on how to gain that.
As someone who is like the chairman and founder of the Unapologetically Black Committee, be around Black people. Like, I think that going to a historically Black college, being in a historically Black fraternity, having a Black doctor, having a Black dentist, having Black attorneys, like, I think that you're ashamed to be Black because the narrative of Blackness is not a positive one. When we look in the media, we always you see the Love and Hip Hops, you see the this. But when you saw the Cosbys, it made you want to be that. Like, when you saw a positive narrative of African Americans, you want that. If you see something in a positive light, you want to achieve that. And so if you see Black Barbie dolls, if you see Black TV shows, if you go to a Black church, and if you're involved in Jack and Jill's and all these other organizations that show a positive light to Black people, and you're experiencing it for yourself in an intimate level, you won't be ashamed to be Black. But when you're only seeing the negative visions of it, the views of it, that is what makes you ashamed to be Black. But go to HBCU, do these type of things that surround you around Black people, and you won't have any choice. And then when you go to the spaces where you are the minority, you're the one of few, you know from your past experience, I know what Black people are like at HBCU. I know what my family is like. I know who my dentist is. And so then you won't have a problem in your Blackness because you know, and read the history of Black people. And don't start reading at slavery. Read before slavery. Read about what's going on in Africa and learn about where we truly come from. And then you won't have a choice but to be unapologetically Black, because you wouldn't want to be anything else, because it's so amazing. And so just like doing your research and surrounding yourself around positivity.
Right.
Amen.
Yeah, I was say, so as far as for brothers who may not have access to a largely Black space, for instance, I live in Los Angeles. It's not too many spaces you can find that's predominantly Black. You have to create it yourself. Right. And if you don't have the ends to get to a HBCU, it starts, like the brother just said, as far as intentionally reading in on who you are. Like my father, he used to make me we're very intentionally making sure we stayed in the Black space as much as we can in Los Angeles, as far as whether it be in Leimert Park or whatever you have. Actually, matter of fact, I have a book, and it gives you, I'll show you guys, I will run and get it, but it's a book on the history of Africans, essentially, and African Americans past slavery, and it's actually like our writings and our articles in this large book. I'll show you right now. But basically what I'm saying is reading that, and as far as doing that and practicing that, allowed me to better understand who I was and who I wanted to be as a Black man. And that, again, it goes into understanding self, like Jeremiah is saying. You have to understand who you are. You break off those barriers of what you understand others perceive you to be, and then going into your core essence of who you are and who you want to be, and stuff. It'll go a whole lot smoother. But I'm gonna go run and grab that book and come right back. I'll show you.
Anyone else?
I would say, like Jeremiah said, just be comfortable with being yourself. And if you don't have people that you can find celebrities, find people within your community that are doing positive work, and read their books. Try to just look at videos to understand the mindset of how they live their life, how comfortable they are in their own skin, and just model after them. Now you don't have to do the same thing they're doing, but take bits and pieces from others to implement into your life.
And I think that's what you've done basically,
Yeah,
right?
I've done that with
Yeah.
a lot of people. Yeah.
Right. Great.
What's the name of that book?
Black Chronicle.
Nice.
Okay.
Then this goes back. So again, it's telling all of our stories aside from what you'll see in like for me, like I went to well, my high school, it was kind of mixed, but they didn't teach art history there. So aside from doing like YBS or Jack and Jill, like Kyle was saying, we would be practice at home and reading books like this. And this tells our story, and it gave me a better understanding of self. So I was able to navigate myself in these predominantly white spaces, whether it be in the workplace or at Cal State Long Beach type of situation. But I had an identity of I had my identity surface level before where I am now, but I had an identity of who I wanted to be and who I am, and that allowed me to navigate as a Black man through these spaces and helped me get to where I am now. The more I look intentionally into the history of melanin, the more strength I feel. You know what I mean? So it's like that's very big. I didn't realize a lot of people don't intentionally look past America on where we come from and who we are as a people. The more you do that, the more it's easier to understand and it's easier to navigate.
Yeah, and
I think it's also. Go ahead, Malik.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right.
I would stay along the theme that everybody is talking about. My brother's one of my biggest role models, if not the biggest. And there's a quote in the Bible that I think we as a people don't pay as much attention to as we should. And that quote is, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge."
Yes.
And it's so heavy. The more I think about it, the older I get. What I would tell a young person that was once in my shoes or any of the brothers on here shoes is challenge everything. We grow up and all we know is everything we do is learned behavior. So you tend to take on what whomever is teaching you, whether directly or indirectly, you take on whatever they're doing, the things that they say, the things that they watch, the things that they deem as important. You know, the holidays you celebrate. You know, it can go very, very deep. And if we know our history enough, we obviously know that our people of melanin came here on slave ships. This is not our culture.
Right.
So the thing that I do every day now is I challenge everything. I challenge the thoughts that I used to think. I challenge the things that I read. I challenge things within my spiritual life. And to me, that's where you'll begin to grow. Because the longer that we stay in ignorance, the longer we lose. And ignorance is far more complex than just, oh, well, read a book. Ignorance is essentially how we are viewed in this light, in this country that we live in. Everything that we are has been built off of ignorance of other people. So I think that's the biggest starting point. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Challenge everything. Keep reading, asking questions, ask different questions, ask different people. And it doesn't mean you have to believe everything that you hear. But do the work to look into things yourself, the things that you call your customs and your norms, the things that you call your habits, because everything we do in this life is based off of habits that we create. So I think that's the biggest thing or advice or whatever I would say is challenge everything. A lot of the people, the young men that I know, especially from my city in Philadelphia, and I'm sure y'all can attest to a lot of this too. You're not afforded the opportunity to think a different way sometimes because everything that's surrounding you has one thought, and that one thought is survival mode. So you just learn to survive. You like, oh, I'm just trying to figure it out. Well, I'm gonna just do whatever I have to do that I see other people doing to survive, and that has nothing to do with learning at all. So just the opportunity to you may not be afforded the opportunity to. Maybe, I don't know, there's some people out there that might not be able to go to a HBCU like we went to or a good school, like anybody on here has gone to. They might feel trapped. Pick up a book, Step outside of your community, seek help, talk to somebody, and release fear, because fear is what keeps us ignorant. That's what keeps
Yeah.
us ignorant. So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
I think Malik just made a good point, and I think that once you do create because there's a need for people to help people reach that ultimate level of peace and comfort and etc. So once you feel like you are unapologetically Black, what are you doing for those individuals who can't get there, who are in survival mode, who don't have the resources? And
Mm.
so I think that it becomes like it's almost like it then becomes your obligation to I was able to receive this. And so if you don't have the opportunity to go to HBCU, it's now my experience to go and tell my experience. It's my experience to provide resources. I got scholarships to go to college. So now I'm working on a scholarship endowment. Like, how do you
Yeah.
reciprocate things that were given to you to create more spaces? If how do you create some type of community center, whatever it is? I think this. How do we make this an intergenerational experience?
Yeah.
So that more people can be unapologetically Black? Because, like you say, if you grow up in an environment, I grew up in the South Side of Chicago. You grow up in an environment where you see so much negativity, you have no choice but to not be excited about who you are. Like, why?
Right.
Why would you? If all you know is drug dealing, and that's a positive thing because it's providing for your family, you don't know that's a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like we have to now go back and change those narratives because we were fortunate enough to have these opportunities and resources and be the 1 out of 10 who did make it out or whatever. And so, like, how do you take on that obligation to expand that emotion, feeling, and experience?
It's a great point. I believe, and to backpack on that, I believe it's our duty to shorten the learning curve for the ones that come after us, right?
Absolutely.
Um, it is our duty as Black men to put our hands back in our communities, to put our hands in the next generation of who we perceive to be, or even our family, right? So to summarize what Malik said as well as Kyle said is our job is to shorten the learning curve, right?
Mhm.
Continuously challenge everything, right? And help the next generation get to where we strive to be.
And
Yeah.
you'd be surprised, like so many people, just small things like traveling outside of the city that they grew up in, bro.
Uh-huh.
That's something. That's one of the pieces of things that changed my life. Being able to say, "Damn, there's stuff outside of Philadelphia." There's some
Yeah.
people who know nothing outside of what they see every day, and that just piggybacks off of what Jeremiah and Kyle are saying. It is our duty because, unfortunately, and I say that with care, but sometimes all they see is, well, they watch sports, so they see, a professional athlete making millions of dollars and living the life. They
Hmm.
watch music videos and award shows, and they see all of these artists who also are challenged just like we are. They just making a lot of money doing it. But this is their only view of what it looks like to live unapologetically or live unapologetically Black. And it's
Hmm.
not the only thing. We're on the phone with, I don't know much about Kyle and Jeremiah yet, the other Jeremiah, but two married men. I'm engaged. That's stuff that you don't see like, it's just not as common as what we think it is. So I agree.
Right.
It's our, once we see the other side a little bit, it is our duty to go back. Like, I have one of my homies, and I won't say his name on here. He's younger than me, and I met him through one of my best friends. Younger dude, cool young man. He's in the streets a little bit. And I remember he started to come around and hang out with me at my house because of my best friend.
Hmm.
They were cool. And he would come by, he just would ask questions. He would look so like, damn, that's what's up, bro. How did you do that? And I didn't think I was doing anything special. I'm like, bro, I'm just living regular.
Hmm.
But even some of the smaller things just wowed him. He asked me, he was like, yo, I want to come to your wedding. I said, bro, I will make sure that you come out. He's probably never seen a wedding before. He's never
Right.
seen what it looks like to love a woman, or
And black love, something like that.
or how it's done, or just see somebody happy and being able to push past certain barriers. So it's not so common in our community, and it is our duty to, when we do get a little bit of taste of the other side, is to extend the olive branch, reach out an
Right.
arm and just show people sometimes the littlest thing.
Yeah.
And I'll leave this, and I won't talk y'all to death, but
Let me say one thing.
just an example of football. When I was growing up, I was playing football, and I thought like, oh yeah, I want to be in the NFL. Like that's the thing. That didn't become as real to me until I started taking college visits as a football player, and I was doing unofficial and official college visits, and I was seeing all of these big universities, these big stadiums, big fancy weight rooms, and players' lounges with pool tables in it, and I was like, wow, I might really be able to do this. Like, so sometimes when you see something different, it is going to motivate you, or again, just help you see it a different way, and you might, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
So funny thing, right? My friends, we have this saying. We say exposure equals equity, right? You don't know the value of that exposure has done for that person, right? Just putting somebody in that wedding, putting somebody in that college tour, putting somebody in front of an investment deal, like that exposure is not equitable to that person. Like that person will now grow with that value is consistently growing within them, right? So that, man, exposure is equity, bro. We understand that. I didn't know it until most recently. My friend group and I, we had this a Black men's conference. It was called Invite Only, and each person that was invited came from a completely different industry. We had VC, venture capitalists. We had real estate. We had entrepreneurship. We had just people excelling in all different industries. But we all learned something different from each person that was there. And that exposure alone has been able to, in a sense, have a snowball effect in each one of our lives, right? We're talking about creating investment groups because one of them does what's crowdfunding, right? Now we're thinking about how can we get together and invest in this. I would have never known how to do that if I wasn't in that room, right? We're talking about some of the people. We're talking about shortening the learning curve. Some of the other people there were very successful entrepreneurs. How did you get there? Now you're shortening the learning curve for me. That's exposure. Now that's equitable for me. That's growing. You understand? So, man, I'm very passionate when it comes to that. Exposure is very, very key. And for somebody like myself, prior to this, in my younger days, I was in the streets, right? My uncle stepped into my life, said, nah, the streets ain't for you, took me into his home, and showed me the light, brought me to Howard University, brought me in his own little college HBCU tour. I ended up at Norfolk State University, and I pledged, you know what I'm saying? But these things would have never happened if I wasn't exposed to it. If I wasn't exposed to a homecoming and seeing that, college is fun. College is fun. Jeremiah was just talking about it too. College is fun. But we wouldn't know that. We just think about school. I want to learn. Nah, make it fun. Expose these young individuals. So it is our duty to go back into the community and expose these children, to expose the next generation in a more equitable environment.
Yeah.
And I like that quote. I have another quote, kind of like exposure leads to expansion. So like you said, when you see something, your mind, you come up with different ideas when you see different things. Your mind leads you to a whole new world that you didn't even expect you could tap into because
you might not even know it existed.
Right, exactly. When you see this, it leads to a whole different realm of life.
Yeah. I like where this conversation is going, but I want to get a little personal with you all. We're still in the same, unapologetically Black. But I want to know, how do you overcome yourself in this walk, in this life? How do you win? How do you deal with these internal battles? Overcoming yourself and dealing with these internal battles, but winning at the same time.
I'll start it off, and I'm gonna be very, very honest.
Be very honest.
I'm gonna be extremely honest,
Okay.
and it's something that it's funny because probably my younger self I would not be as confident to be so open and like that about certain things.
Right.
Last year during COVID was probably the changing point of my life. Um, I asked myself a couple really tough questions. And there was a lot of outside factors that made me get to this point, a lot of failures that kind of made me get to this point. I was in a very low place. Um, you know, feelings of depression and just like, damn, like, I'm at that time, 28 years old. I'm not where I thought I was going to be, or at least where people thought I would be or told me I would be. And I just secluded myself from everything. It was the first time in my life. And actually, my sister was really the one who helped me to see this. We were having a conversation. I told her everything was going on, and she was just like, Malik, you have to really start. And it's going to take me back to my first original point. You have to really start to learn to be vulnerable. It's the only way. Vulnerability is not so common amongst Black men. It almost feels extinct at times. And it was the most in my life I've ever cried. It was the most in my life I ever cried. And I was by myself. It was me and my dog, my little puppy. She's sitting right here. But I allowed myself to go through that, and I questioned everything. I was like, "Why? How am I crying so much for? Like, what the hell's wrong with me? Like, this ain't me." And there were a few things that I wanted to learn to do. And I prayed every day. Cried, prayed, worked out, went to work, and did it all over again. I was working from home. We always kind of stuck in the house in a way. And I just kept, I was like, I want to learn to give my all to things because it was something that I realized I never did. I'm super talented. I sing, I do music, I write. I was a Division I athlete, just I can name it all. I'm not trying to boast and brag, but I was like, but for some reason I feel so incomplete. And I said, I want to learn how to give my all to something. I want to learn how to be vulnerable. And a big thing for me was discipline and consistency because it was something I feel like if you can conquer those two things, there's not anything you can't do. But it really, to answer your question, how did I overcome myself? I was very, very brutally honest with myself. And I allowed myself to go through the emotions. Whatever it was, I committed to it. I said, you know what? This is like the worst place I feel like I've ever been in my life. I haven't really been talking to anybody about it at the time. I leaned on my small support system, my sister, my mom, my brother, my family. But I just allowed myself to go through whatever it was going to be. I said, whatever it's going to be, I'm going to go through it. And literally, and before things even got better, they got worse. But mentally, I was in such a good place because I was doing the work. And you have to be honest with yourself. We ain't as perfect as we think we are. We not as handsome as we think we are. We ain't got, we ain't the player that we think we are,
Absolutely.
maybe not as, well off, we probably fake the funk, I wear this, wear that, and I look good to people. But sometimes we not as well off as we think we are. And I had to be very brutally honest with myself. And it was a very strange place to be. But I promise you, on the other side of those very, very tough days, and this is a motto that I live by, is everything that we want is on the other side of hard. Something I heard somewhere, but everything we want is on the other side of hard. So don't ever think you can go around stuff. And I think that's what we get used to. We don't want to go through what's hard because we don't want to deal with what comes with what's hard. So we rather try to go around it, and it's worse. We end up worse off. So I went through it. And what was on the other side of hard for me was much bigger than what I ever thought I could ever achieve. And I don't think I'm anywhere close to my goals yet, but it's much bigger than what I thought I would ever achieve. Because I finally felt like I was in a place that I could get to everything I wanted. And I really wasn't before that. So I think that was the biggest thing for me is vulnerability honesty with myself. Sometimes you got to go through it alone, and that's okay. And sometimes you need help. It just depends, but don't go around it. Go through it.
Right.
Ooh.
Wow. That was good.
I wanted
So that ooh, this my heart dropped when you asked that question. Reason being is it's actually two people that's on this call right now that actually helped me get to where I am right now. Right?
Got it.
It was actually in 2017 where I was in a group chat and I was having this wild conversation. Like,
I remember what you talking about.
this with my brothers. We're just talking about the things that we've done, and I honestly was ashamed of it. I was like, oh, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're celebrating. And it took a moment of realization, like, yo, I don't know if I like who I'm becoming.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't like this route. I don't like it. I don't know what to do. So what I personally did was I reached out to the two individuals and asked for guidance, right? So to my opinion, I felt like the two people were individuals that were in a direction where I wanted to be in. So I reached out to them, right? So I'm gonna just be honest. It was Brandon and Malik, right? I called Brandon. I was like, "Yo, bro, how do you do it?" And he literally, full transparent, he kind of guided me through it. It's like, listen, you know. So I'll always be indebted to Brandon for that. But for me, we had several conversations. I took a moment to be abstinent from everything. Like I kind of, how do you say it? Detach myself. I detach myself, but even detox myself
That's
from
what I was gonna say.
all of the external spirits. Oh, sorry, anything external outside
it.
of what I could control, right?
Yeah.
And that helped me. That opened my eyes to see so many new things. That I had more control over what I thought I could control. Like I thought I couldn't control, right? Where it was, regardless of what demons and what I can control that. You know what I'm saying? And I put my energy towards completely different things. Whether if it was creativity, the gym. I was probably the most healthiest I've ever been during that time because I didn't have any type of distractions. I put my energy, my energy towards everything outside of what I detoxed myself from. And I just became this better person. I like, in a sense, like people say the third eye opens up. Like I finally was able to see life.
It's like an epiphany.
I was able to taste food. Like I was like, yo, this is how this was this whole time. How come I didn't know? Right? Until I detoxed myself from all of the toxic traits, all of the toxic things in my life, I wasn't able to get to this point. So to that point, like I looked for guidance, and then I did research. I then started to read. Brand recommended me some books. Lee recommended me some videos to listen to, and I would literally read and listen to these videos daily. Like it was, my routine was completely different than what it was before. And then now look at me, like I did a complete 180. Like you would never believe.
Yeah.
If I told you I was outside, okay? My life was different. And I thank the men around me, for pouring into me, like, you know what I'm saying? And building me up into making me a stronger man. So again, to sum it up, I would say detox yourself from all toxicity.
That's good.
Really just focus on your goals and put your energy towards your creativity, regardless of whatever it's in, whether if it's in real estate, whether if it's in your job. I'm pretty sure you will get a promotion in your job if you put your energy in that, right? If you put your energy in your creativity, you will do anything. Leek said something, two things that I live by. It's patience and consistency as well, right? When I go to a prayer call, they ask me what you want to pray for, patience and consistency. Because with those two things, patience, I understand that, hey, it don't matter right now, but I'm gonna get it in due time. Consistency, knowing that if I continuously practice these things, I will then get what I need, right? We talk about affirmations. We talk about all of these full circle. They all go together. So that's how I would sum it up.
I'll chime in really quick. I think that, and it's been said, but like to highlight vulnerability and surrounding yourself around the right people. I tell people all the time, I have a board of directors for my life. I have a group of people that play different roles in my life that know who I want to be. And I've created this board of directors. I have a spiritual advisor. I have a financial advisor. I have a trainer. I have a therapist. I have a professional coach. I created this group of advisors and I tell them my goals. Like they know my goals, like I know my goals.
Wow.
Then I'm vulnerable enough to tell them my shortcomings. I'm vulnerable enough to tell them when I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And then they remind me that I am. Because oftentimes I'm harder on myself than I should be. And so these folks tell me like you're not failing. These folks tell me you are succeeding. And they know my goals and then they hold me accountable. So I think that being vulnerable enough to tell people where you want to be and who you are, that I am, like I am, this is who I think I am, is for me. And then them holding you accountable and then being a constant reminder in times when you have self-doubt is so important. Because oftentimes we really ain't doing bad. We're really not failing. Jeremiah may not have been as toxic as Jeremiah think he is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But when we self-reflect, we really dig deep and we really stab ourselves really hard. And so having those individuals to say, I know who you are, I know what you want to be, and just continue, or hey, you're falling short, or hey, you're doing just fine. Just reminding you, just be patient. And so I think, like I said, I have that board of directors of folks that I go to. They know all my goals, and I'm very vulnerable with all of them. And it allows for them to give me the right advice. Because if you have telling the story, I'm only going to be able to give you the advice, the wrong advice, because you only told me a piece of the story and not the whole thing. And so now I've told you something that you thought was correct, but it really wasn't the medication for you because I didn't know the illness. And so, like, making sure that you're super vulnerable with certain people and then be able to take the right advice. Network, vulnerability, I think those two things are huge.
Wow. One of our listeners, Chantel Randolph, said, give yourself the grace to grow. That's good. Thank you. Gentlemen, Brenton, did you want to go? Jeremiah, did you want to say something?
I was about to, but y'all touched on a lot of what I was going to say. It's almost it's aligned. For me, it was big on whenever because I'm going to travel back to the original question, was when you started to have those doubts or self-doubts, experiencing self-doubts, what have you, when you're on this journey. It was regrounding myself, practicing. For me, it's practicing detachment as well as living intentionally, and then allowing, quote, it would be in line with allowing grace for yourself. But for me, it's allowing myself to experience life. So instead of always wondering what's going to happen to me next, what's this going to happen next, I'm allowing myself to be in the present, to fully experience the present, and then to get through the present, you have to get through it. But in order to get through it, you have to experience it. Like even Leek was saying, he had the moment where he had to experience this extreme low and allow himself to essentially live this moment in his life to be able to get to that next stage where it does. And it's almost like like a caterpillar or whatever, you know, when they go in the cocoon and you have this dark stage where sometimes you have to go there. So you have to understand yourself. You have to come to terms with who you are. Again, it's always about identifying self, being fully aware of who you are and where you want to be, allowing yourself to experience that moment in time in this life, and then transition out of it to this new, brighter, you know what I mean? Like you coming out as the phoenix, if you will. Yeah. So it's allowing yourself the grace, allowing yourself to experience life. And I'm still working on that. I still have moments where I'm about to step into a big meeting and I have a little slither of doubt, but then I take I practice breath work. I take a few deep breaths. I allow myself to understand, you know what I mean? I reground myself with who I am. I'm like, I'm about to go in here and do my thing now after that. And it works. Again, it's that internal fork. You're setting yourself to a certain vibration to be able to have that outside of yourself.
Right.
So that's been major for me.
Right.
I'll say for me, I'll be real quick. I love what everybody said, like just listening, spoke life into me. But when there's self-doubt for me, I try to go back to discipline for myself. When I have discipline, there's structure. When there's structure, there's no way for me to hinder to the left, wanting to do certain things. So when there's discipline, I think there is a sense of accountability. You're making sure you're doing these things. You're not going out and doing this so that your future can line up with the ultimate goal in life. So
Awesome. Gentlemen, I have so much more to ask you. However, that is our time. But before we go, tell our listeners how they can connect with you. We can start with Kyle.
I would say social media. You can just follow me on Instagram at Kyle Sterling _ and from there you can schedule consultations, meet with me, whatever. But I think that would be the quickest, easiest way right now. It's just Kyle Sterling on Instagram.
Thank you, Brent.
My social media handle is abundantly bro, nickname bro for my initials. Be on the lookout for the Jade Company. Give us a few time working on some investments and what have you, and trying to get that funding. But I will say in the next 2 to 3 years, you will hear of us in the Los Angeles area for sure. So, and if you need some kind of electrical engineering contracting, I'm also in that field. So by all means, you can contact me on abundantly bro at Instagram.
Yes, thank you. Jay Williams.
So you can follow me on Instagram at j.will75. That's lowercase, and then you can follow me on Twitter at capital J, capital D, capital W Williams 01. You can DM me. So for any questions, yeah.
There it is. There it is. Really back in.
I'm sorry, had a moment. Jay, how can they contact you, connect with you?
Absolutely. First and foremost, please follow us on all social media platforms, Sauce, SOSSD.co, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. Please follow us. But you can also reach me at Mr. MRJREGIS. Mr. J on all
Thank
social
you.
platforms.
Malik.
Same as everybody, man. We live in the digital age, so you guys can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, my YouTube channel, Apple Music, SoundCloud, whatever, at Malik Stokes Music. My handle down there. Feel free to DM me, any advice, anything like that, and look out for new music soon.
Thank you all so much for allowing me to showcase your stories, for doing your part in changing the narrative, and lastly, for keeping your commitment by being a part of the show. That means a lot. If you've enjoyed the show, please let us know. We would love to shout you out and post your comments. If you or someone you know is changing the narrative, please contact us at iChangeTheNarrative@gmail.com. We would love to share your stories for I Change the Narrative merchandise. Visit iChangeTheNarrative.org. Thank you so much to our sponsors, So Organic, So Suave. You can follow Sauce on Instagram for the latest in product news and updates at sossd.co. Meet us here next Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all so much for listening.